Howdy there, folks. Welcome to episode 95 here of Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors. This is Billy, and just got done with a fun chat with Dallas. Everybody should know him by now, one of the gang. And we just wanted to kind of get together. I didn't have anything really set up for this week for a show with a new guest. I figured it'd be fun to just kind of catch up with Dallas. We've been very busy over the last couple months around the farm, and as well as kind of after a few months of time passes and you kind of get to reflect on the past hunting season. Him and I had been chatting about trying to just get together and do a little bit of reflection on the season and, kind of talk about some of the lessons learned and some of the things that we walked away from it with that could help us as we go into next year. So we wanted to chat about that a little bit, chat about some of the stuff that we're working on the farm, our progress there, and then get into food plots, some of our plans for the summer, equipment side of things. We're purchasing a piece of equipment for the farm to use, so we wanted to kind of chat about that a bit, and then we get into the latter half, probably the second half of the show. We talk about equipment and gear. So we Dallas this past year, as well as some of the other guys in the group, all went mobile to join me, and we got kind of Dallas's perspective on it, some of his lessons learned, some of the things he thought, gear he was using, things like that, and then kind of circle around on myself and some of the gear that I was running this year, my thoughts on it as far as the companies and the products and who I'm currently supporting with my financial expenditures when it comes to hunting gear. So hope you all enjoy this discussion, kind of just a chill sesh between Dallas and I, just catching up a bit, and a little bit of a break from the heavy stuff we've been covering on the last couple episodes. So I hope you've all enjoyed those. Definitely like to do more of that in the future, but also don't want to beat up on that stuff too much, because sometimes we need just some fun, positive hunting talk and just chatting. We don't need it to all be serious and heavy all the time. So that's that. Enjoy the chat. Just a reminder, we got about a week and a half left at this point for the Shedfest signups. So we are, if you aren't aware, we are running a Shedfest here at Pert Near Outdoors. The benefit of the Shedfest is going to the National Deer Association. So just this week we had surpassed 100 signups for the Shedfest. So we're pretty excited about that, because what that means is that's every entry into the contest is a membership purchased for the National Deer Association. So that's I think we're up to 103 or 104 at this point, and would love to hit a number like 120 or 150 if we're being a little aggressive. But that's fantastic stuff. So if you'd like to join in with us, head on over to pertnearoutdoors.com and go to the store, and you'll see the t-shirt, the first annual Shedfest t-shirt. Once you buy the shirt, you will be entered into the challenge, and then any sheds you find, just tag us in the pictures or just email them over directly to us at pertnearoutdoors.com, or text or direct message on Instagram or Facebook, whatever's easiest for you. And we've got the 3 categories there with some great prizes from some people that are supporting us, being Whitetail Landscapes. John over there has got a crossbow that he's giving away for the best match set, which is an awesome prize. It's a $1,000 value bow. So John was gracious enough to supply us with that. We got a prize pack from Pursuit Outdoors for the trail cameras, and we've got the Deer Steward 1 course, the online course that National Deer Association partnered with Clemson University on. We have that as one of the prizes as well. So some great opportunity if you're out there shed hunting to find some sheds and submit the pictures, and we're going to rank and score them and award the prizes as that goes. But at the end of the day, don't want to scare people off with this about it being a contest. It doesn't matter if you enter anything. You're a winner, because you're going to get a sweet t-shirt and you're going to get a 1-year membership to the National Deer Association. So thank you, everybody, for your support of not only us, but of what we've done with the last few promotions, both with the beer that we brewed over at Windy Brew and this Shed Fest, because we're helping this organization, National Deer Association, to we either financially to raise money for them like we did with the beer, or actually just getting them more members, which will help grow their base. And I think if you've never been a member before, you will really enjoy it. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been a member for years. I've been a member of the deer hunting community for a long time, but officially a member of the National Deer Association for the last year. And I've really enjoyed what I get with my membership, as well as just what the organization stands for and what they do each and every day to speak for all of us deer hunters that are passionate about this way of life we have. So I think it's super important to dig into that and understand the organizations you're supporting and what their missions are and what they're doing. You may make sure that all lines up with you. So NDA may or may not be the one for you, but it's the one for me, and I think it's the one for a lot of us out there. That if you got to pick anybody to donate any money to or purchase a membership from right now, deer hunting's where my heart is, and this is the organization that's out there fighting the good fight for us and helping to move everything forward when it comes to deer hunting and habitat and R3 and doing all the stuff in the political realm as well. So good stuff there. I'm done talking. Enjoy the episode. Fade 'em.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275
ghost,
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
You know,
He's like,
he's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's right. I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. You can bend that. There you go.
Oh yeah. How that?
That's better.
All right.
Brother Dallas, what's happening?
It's a long ways from deer season.
It is, but we're closer than we were yesterday, so we're getting there.
The sun's out.
I know. I think you're the only person who's actually been in the studio.
Really?
Yeah. I've never. Well, maybe Danny's been down here one time. I mean, I would love to just do more here, but it's things have not allowed of that. Plus, nobody wants to deal with screaming kids and everything else. Yeah, every day that goes by, I realize more and more what you've gone through over the last 11 years or 10 years, whatever it's been. It's like the nights just, well, you go to work. You work the late shift, but still, the bedtimes just freaking drag on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm clear of most of that. My youngest one will be in kindergarten in the fall.
Did you ever have to battle with the kids getting dressed or getting undressed, into their jammies, or getting into their play clothes, as we call them, their day clothes?
I've been through so many battles, I don't even know.
Yeah. It's like being in war. You have PTSD from.
Right. Yeah, I forgot half of it. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. Well, I'm in the midst of what feels like it should have been a 1 week war, but it's turned into multiple weeks on a kid who thinks he's Spider-Man and refuses to get out of his Spider-Man costume every morning.
Well,
So
I'll tell you one thing that everybody says this. You hear it from older guys all the time, but I'm starting to realize it now that the kids are older and every day is not such a battle. It seems like you spend the first so many years waiting for that to happen, and then when it does, it's like the time really does fly by like it never used to. I mean, I can't remember where the last like 8 years went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said, you spend those days with the little ones. Like, there's a lot of times when you think like, man, I can't wait till these kids are old enough to, you know, get up and get their own breakfast and get themselves dressed in the morning and, you know, not have to change diapers and all that shit. It seems like you wish it away. And then after it happens, it's like, man, where did the time go? I'm really enjoying my time now with my 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, she's almost 5 now, but
Is she really? Well, yeah, she's the same age as Maya. So yeah.
That's truly the best time from like 3 to 5, 3 to 6, something like that.
Yeah.
That's been my most fun for every one of them.
Yeah. Because they probably want to be right with you all the time and doing stuff. And
yeah, and they've all been attached to my hip at that age too. So
Mhm.
it's like I can do no wrong with them at that age.
which is
so,
great.
You know, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to have daughters that actually favor you over their mother. You know, I mean, it goes away, but
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
It'll go through its times where
I-
they favor you, then they favor her.
yeah. I just try to enjoy that part of it while it lasts.
Yep. Yeah, and time does fly. And every time I have this discussion with anybody who's either got young kids currently or has had young kids in the past, it's like, don't wish that stuff away.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it, you're like, how the hell do I get it all done? And
It's tough. Yeah.
and that's what it stems into, just, you know, into the hunting podcast, you know, like, especially you've had incredible success over the last 8 to 10 years. When, you know, you posted that video last weekend of your garage, you know, finally getting it decorated after a couple of years of being in that house and getting up all your mounts and everything. And I mean, when you really look at it, you're like, damn, like you've put some seriously good bucks on the ground over the last 8 to 10 years since I've known you.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's all been done with
kids,
young kids, and not just one, but multiple, you know, and each
Right.
year, every couple of years, you're adding one to the bunch. So yeah, there's a lot to be learned from that, and I think I'm actively learning how to deal and how to make better use of my time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this time of year is a great point of the year to kind of start like thinking about that sort of stuff. Like, you only have so much time. You only can get away. You know, we get vacation time, but that's not all for you.
No,
you know, it's
right.
family time too. You know, so that's something we wanted to talk today, just kind of reflecting on the season. We did podcasts all the way through and kind of recapped all the hunts, but we never really, now that we're several months past it, like, you can kind of reflect back and kind of think about the way that we were approaching last season at this point last year, and like, how did it all go? You know, and did it play out the way that we expected it to? No. And I would say it almost never does.
Yeah.
But there's something to be learned from where you found your success, because you shot 2 great bucks this year. I shot 2 bucks this year, but none of it really happened exactly the way that any of us would have thought when we were sitting here last March preparing for the summer work and food plot and scouting and everything else. So
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a year ago since quarantine, and when me and you were
year ago
doing
today.
Okay.
Year ago today, I was furloughed.
So all that
Yeah.
winter scouting that we were doing, and I mean that pretty much segues into our season. Our season started a year ago today, because everything we did, from winter scouting to habitat work to food plots to everything we did, in my mind at least, was with the idea of trying to kill one deer. So, you know, we spent from March, well, really since last year. I mean, it was a deer we were after last year, but I never really got to, in 19 that is, split brow. I never really got to hunt them very much, because I killed a buck early in opening day of gun season, so I had to back out of there. And then, but we knew that he made it. We had videos of him. Nick's found his sheds, so we pretty much geared our whole season towards, you know, and we talked about it here in October. I think that was like October 23rd I was here because I was starting my vacation, and it was like I knew there was a pretty good chance that I wasn't going to get the deer, but and like I said, it wasn't like that was the only thing I was going to shoot.
Well,
but
we were getting tons of trail cam
Yeah.
pictures. You had the first 2 weekends of the season, you guys had daylight sightings of him.
Yeah.
You know, so like there was
He was out there. He was killable.
Yeah.
We just didn't get it done.
Right.
And he got killed on opening day of gun season. So that was quite a letdown. So after spending the whole bow season trying to hunt him, trying to do it smart, you know, but we didn't never really had a close encounter. I did actually. November 15th, that real windy, shitty day, me and Brian, the last Sunday of bow season, we were hunting off the ground with crossbows and 40-mile-an-hour winds and sideways rain. And I walked across one of our food plots. I stopped on the one side of it. I stopped in an area where I had some cover, and I stood there for about 5 minutes trying to decide what I wanted to do. I decided I was going to hunt up through the end of the woods there. I walked across the food plot into the goldenrod and stood there again because I noticed the wind was swirling, so I was starting to have second thoughts. I stood there for a minute or two, and I looked up, and there he is standing there 50 yards from me, staring at me with his head back. I'm not 100% sure it was him. I'm probably 95% sure it was him.
Yeah,
it was
I
a
mean,
big, mature buck no matter what. I just couldn't see because he had his head tipped back a little bit. Kind of like the picture that we got of him after he was dead. Was his
same
head
look. He's looking
yeah,
at Jesus.
Same look, but, you know, unfortunately he wheeled and ran out of there. But the whole thing was dumb luck, obviously, but we were doing that for a reason. We were hunting on the ground because it was November 15th. It's the middle of the rut. It was windy, shitty weather. Who knows what he was up to. It's like 8:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
He came right out in the open. Got, you know. And if by dumb luck I had taken 3-4 more steps in where I got behind a tree, or if I had stayed on the other side of that food plot for another 2-3 minutes, he might have came right 30 yards broadside past me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is kind of a close encounter, but it's not like I was set up for it. But yeah, so he got killed opening day, and so we had to remake our plans for the season because that's the only deer on the farm that I wanted to shoot.
Right.
You know, I had some target deer at the other property where I hunt, so fortunately I was able to shift over there.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that was a little tough to swallow because it's like, what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, everything we were doing, we were thinking about one deer, you know, food plots, looking and trying to find beds, and is this a bed that him or another mature buck is using, and buck rub lines, and like we were just putting so much, and I think we'll look back at this, you know, 10 years from now or whatever, you'll look back at that year that we were super focused on that one deer, and we've learned a ton, I think, about, I mean, I always say this from my perspective. I'm learning every time I go to the farm because I didn't grow up there. So every time I go there, I'm learning something about where the deer are hanging, where the deer trails are coming and going from. But I think, like, just as a collectively, and it's really made us take a step back and think about the structure of the property, and do we like the way it is, and can we change it? So, I mean, we've obviously been actively working to try to change the structure of things because we're not happy with the production of the property, you know, hunting wise.
Yeah.
You know, it's the property's fine, big picture, but it's not producing the quality of hunting that you guys have known from the past and that we know we could produce with the property that we own. You know.
Yeah, I think you've been there long enough now that you're not any farther behind us as far as how to hunt it and stuff, because things have changed so much that I've tried to totally rethink the way I hunt there in the last 3-4 years. I mean, I've pretty much totally dropped all of the things we used to do and just tried to start over because things are just so much different now.
And you have to, I think you have to do that. I think we're all feeding off each other and learning so much because we're finding other places to hunt too. And I think that's one thing that is a characteristic of why all of us are in our group are having success over the last, you know, we've really all been the people that I surround myself with and I would consider to be like our Pertinier crew. Everybody's become very, very focused on like the approach over the last handful of years. So not getting so laser focused on one piece of property and being just cognizant of the fact that, your presence on the property changes the way that things are going to operate and move. Whereas now we've found we have so many different spots to hunt, whether it's access to private property or these public land spots that we're finding. Even if you have that spot just in your back pocket, knowing I might only hunt there one time a year, it's taking the urgency away from like, I have to go sit that stand because it's November 5th and I have to be in that stand at the farm. But it's instead now we're like, well, the wind's not right and we haven't seen the activity, or there's reasoning for why we are or aren't going into a spot, and we're just choosing not to blow it up. Whereas I can speak for myself growing up, whether it was hunting with my buddy Chris at his grandma's property or going to Naples, it was like, I can hunt today, so I'm gonna hunt today. Like, you were just going. But there wasn't a whole lot of like rhyme or reason as to why you were picking that day to go. And, for me personally, like this past year, it was probably the least I've ever hunted. But I was just as effective or more effective. Well, I was more effective because I shot a good quantity of deer. I shot 5 deer and only 25 hunts or 26 hunts. It was 26 hunts because I figured out, I actually like kept track of my sits this year where I sat. I kind of regret not keeping track of like what the weather was, but it really, at the end of the day, it's not really that important. I just marked down what property I was hunting and the day and what happened as far as did I kill or didn't I kill.
Yeah.
And it was super interesting to like reflect back to that and look at it and see. And I think I've talked about that in here and maybe even with you. It's like that middle of October for me, it's just not been productive. Yeah. So when it goes back to the where we first started talking about like having a family and having kids and picking your times, it's like it's not beneficial. Me reflecting and looking at my hunting style and the properties I hunt, it's not beneficial for me to take that second and third weekend of October away from my wife and kids when I could keep those in the bank and I could be really going after at the end of October when I've over time had the majority of my success in the properties I hunt. So it's like you kind of take a step back and you're like, why am I wasting my time is what it really comes down to, because there's not a lot of it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you can't kill a mature buck at that time of the year.
Tons of people do, yeah.
But that's the way I've been doing it for years. I try to fire my bullets at the right time when I can actually hit something, And, I did hunt that October a little bit more than usual this year, that mid-October. But that's a lot of the reason. We did have some good weather. There were some cold fronts.
Yeah.
And we had the split brow activity. So we had intel telling us that it was okay to go and hunt at those times. So I'm okay with that, too. But
yeah.
I try to just, I thought it was a hunt smart, not hard. Now this year I found out that I had to do both things. But still, it comes down to you should have a reason why you're going every time.
Yeah.
Don't go out there and be like, well, it's Sunday afternoon and it's October and it's bow season and I got to go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Maybe, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know what to do, I don't know where I could go to have any success or anything, have a reason to go. And if you don't have a reason to go, find something else to do,
yeah.
Especially when you have family and, because eventually you're going to run out of points as far as being able to go and do those things without getting on somebody's nerves.
Yeah.
So.
And that's like, you bring up a good point. I think one of the things I really have never like done it for a purpose of like going and doing a kind of like an observation sit.
I'd like to do some more of that too.
But especially now, like your girls, Emma loves going with you, and you guys could go sit in a hedgerow on the downwind side of an area where you're trying to watch the deer coming out to an edge of a field or whatever. And it's like, why not just go glass? I hear like guys like Jesse, like Jesse Cootsie talks about that he spends just as much time behind the glass during hunting season as he does, and he typically has enough confidence to go in and kill a buck on the first time he goes in there after a specific deer because of all the intel he has. And that's something I wanted to do it this year. It just never happened, but something I would love to do more is, we've got a few of those spots where we could sit back 700-800 yards away, and I could even take the spotting scope and just put it on the truck window or on the side-by-side window and just watch the edge of the woods, just see what he's doing.
Yeah.
Or what the does are doing, you know. So it's picking your times. It's doing.
That's one style of hunting that I would like to, that I think is a good strategy, but we've never had any success at it. That's pinpointing mature buck movement in early season and going after them and getting them killed. It's not something we've ever spent a lot of time trying to do, but there's a small segment of people out there that do it, but the ones that do it and have success, like Jesse and like Andy May's a big one on this too, they're deadly at it. They can go summer scout and early October scout and pinpoint the buck they want to kill and go there and kill them. And the great thing about that is it gives you a chance to do it before the rut, before they start wandering off and giving other people a chance to kill them.
Yeah.
You know, but again, if you're going to hunt that time of year, try to have a reason to be out there, you know. I try to have a plan every time I go out, and it can be, my plan might just be that I'm going to take Emma and try to get a doe on the edge of a field. To me, that's a plan, but there's got to be a reason why I'm going to sit where I am and when, you know. Like this year I did a lot more morning hunting. Well, why did I do that? Well, because I found a good property to morning hunt, and I killed a handful of deer doing it. Mm-hmm. I figured out a really good morning transition spot. Those are hard to find. But even then, I'm only going in there on a south wind. There's only a certain time that I can go and do that. But like I say, everything it's calculated.
Yeah.
Then I feel like I'm never wasting a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I never like to come home and be like, I wasted that. I shouldn't have even gone out. And that's not just saying, oh, I didn't see a deer. But at least if I had a plan of attack, a strategy, a reason why I was doing what I'm doing, then I feel like it's not a wasted hunt.
Yeah. And you also got to have whoever's hunting. Now we're talking, you know, for the most part, this is going to be private property discussion, but even public. I mean, there's a few pieces of public that I hunt that the only people that I know that are actively archery hunting it is buddies of mine that I've gotten into the, you know, like, hey, you should check this spot out too. So it's really important to, if you're hunting an area and somebody else is hunting it with you, whether it is public or private. Let's take our private property example with the farm. We all know what each other are doing. Mm-hmm. Like we communicate all week long. Everybody knows if Brian's going out, we're typically texting, we're talking as a group, whether it's a group text or whatever. We know where each other are going because you know, like that's one of the challenges I think we have with our family property in Naples is that we don't have like a group approach.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their spot they like to go to, but there's no like group effort of, okay, we know that this buck is in the area. We all want to kill him. Let's work together as a team. There isn't that. Like, it's like, well, I'm going over here, and that's fine. I have no issue with it. But that's kind of part of the reason why I haven't spent a ton of time focusing my efforts there over the last several years because, number one, it's an hour and a half from home. Number two, I have zero control over everyone else's approach.
Yeah.
And again, that's fine, but it's something I personally can't control. So if I'm only going to have so many days to go hunt, I'm not going to waste my day knowing that the area I want to hunt has had a four-wheeler drive through it and everything's been disturbed, winds blowing around, like those things aren't being thought about. It's just not beneficial to me. Whereas, you know, the stuff that, you know, we do at the farm,
at least we have a little bit of control.
We have a
over
little
what's
control
going on there.
Yeah. And obviously you've got neighbors, but, you know, like we do communicate with Nick, and we know that there isn't a ton of archery pressure around us. It's mainly, you know, once gun season starts, everybody starts getting out. But, you know, it's kind of like knowing what's going on because you could be completely wasting your time going out for those sits if somebody was there the day before or an hour before and you didn't know it, or they walked in to go sit in their stand and they blew out the entire bedding area walking in, and you're like, well,
yeah,
I had no idea. I didn't see any deer tonight. I just assumed that there was no deer movement. It's like, well, because the whole area was blown out.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to know something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think anybody out there that's listening is just, you know, try to have if you may or may not be able to do it. Like I'm not going to push it with my family at home because I'm not there enough. So number one, I can't just show up and be barking around, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, because at this point in my life, I'm not there enough. But, you know, I think that we could, as a group, if we wanted to target specific deer, I think we could do better if it was more of a group approach. But, that's neither here nor there.
Well, fortunately, it's been a good property to you over the years. So,
Yeah.
Everyone's had success over there. So there's a certain point where you don't want to fix what ain't broke.
No.
You know.
And Dad and Uncle Mike, don't get me wrong, it's their property.
Mhm.
And Uncle Mike has done an incredible job with the habitat there, and every year is working to improve it and, make the travel corridors bigger and more connected from one bedding area to another. And he's doing incredible work there. And, Dad, I got to get Dad on here to talk about, kind of like that, like our past season and up there. Again, I think I hunted one hunt up there all season. I stayed at the cabin a couple times, but they're having the success. But I guess like I'm at that point in my hunting journey where like I want to do stuff that I have control over. In 5-6 years, maybe even shorter, by the time Billy's almost 3, he'll be 3 this upcoming hunting season. By the time he's 6 years old, I mean at least 6, probably even younger. Like he's gonna be up there spending the night with me on weekends, and he'll be hanging out with Grandpa and doing whatever. So like right now is that short window I have the next couple of years where I've definitely got a little bit more control personally of where I'm gonna go and what I'm gonna do. But as soon as Billy's able and can go spend the night at camp, like he's coming to camp because I know he's gonna want to. I know that was something my brother and I were doing all the time when we were younger. So like my priorities are gonna slightly change a little bit. So like I want to be in situations where I have some control is kind of, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. Like I don't want it to sound negative at all about my family and my situation there at camp, because that's not at all what it is. It's just I have no control, and I'm at a point right now where I really want to have control of where I'm putting my efforts and why I'm going to go somewhere. To your point, just having like a reason why I'm out there and not just like there to socialize and I'm going to go hunt this stand for 3 hours and then come back to the cabin. Like I'm kind of in this like journey portion where I just want to get out there and like see new stuff and make things happen at my speed, So
Well, there's no reason that Billy or I think of it with Emma too. It's the same way. It's like, she can go sit in a blind with Grandpa for a few hours in the afternoon. Grandpa wants to do that, and I can still go and do my thing.
Right.
Not every time. I mean, but if that's the same deal. If you guys all spend the night at camp and the next afternoon, if Grandpa wants to take Billy 100 yards from camp and sit in a ladder stand or a blind or something, and you want to go and do your own thing, you can still do that.
Oh, for sure. So. Yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be like the end of the world, but it's like I definitely am gonna want to start turning my that. When I look back at my, and I guess it's similar for you. Like you've had an extremely successful like last 10 years as the kids have been growing up, but the time you had, you were freaking lethal. And then I look at like my dad, most of the big bucks that are on his wall, they're all from that period until Jimmy and I could go.
Yeah.
And then he totally turned it off and focused on us. And it's not that the big buck killer isn't still in him. It's just, it's not his prior, it's not his concern anymore. His concern's the future and just being out there and filling the freezer, it changed. So like I sense that and I had this discussion at the gym this morning with Scott Murray. It's that, and he brought it up, but I'm feeling the same way. It's the journey and putting the pieces of the puzzle together to kill that buck, or to even killing the doe. Just having a successful hunt, knowing that you put yourself in the right spot. And you saw it over there at the other property you have access to hunt, where you shot that buck with the big brow tines this year. It's like you had that deer on camera, and you just knew it was like just only a matter of time in that morning spot that you were in. You knew it. You knew you were in a perfect morning spot.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter of time until you had an opportunity at one of those bucks you had on camera.
Yeah.
And here he comes.
Yeah.
So, I don't really know where the hell we were going with that discussion, but you got anything else, like just thoughts on all that stuff? As far as like picking your times and, reflecting on the season of when things worked and when they didn't. I mean, I think we kind of covered that, make sure you have a purpose and don't waste your time. If you're going to go out there, have a reason for being out there. And
I will say that this year I think I learned more than I maybe have ever in my life have I in one season. I hunted a lot for a lot of reasons. COVID actually opened up more time to scout, more time to food plot, more time to hunt because there was a lot less other responsibilities in life. And then I took a week off in bow season, which is not something I normally do. And then it took me a long time to have success. I didn't even kill a doe until the second day of I know it was almost Thanksgiving when I killed my first deer this year. So
Yeah.
I had to fight pretty hard at it, and it was the last week of bow season before I was really into feeling like I was in the game, really, where I felt like I was on the verge of getting it done. So, I had to struggle, but that's where you learn the most, because you're out there and you're trying like hell, and all you're doing is just trying to get it right. It's like if you go out and tag a buck the first week or two of October, we were just talking, I want to do that, but
Yeah.
then you have a tendency to let down your guard for a little while, before you get it back going again. But it took me till, I don't know what it was, at December 10th or 12th or something before I killed a buck this year. So it ended up being a great season, but I fought for it.
Yeah. Well, I joke and call you the, fourth quarter kid or whatever. You consistently have done that, though.
Yeah.
Since I've known you, you're very patient, and you kind of wait for your time to strike is kind of how I view it.
Yeah.
You're classic over the last several years to be the last weekend of rifle or the last weekend of muzzleloader when everybody else is sitting at home, and
Thinking it's football season.
drinking cocoa and watching football, and it's nasty weather, and you're sitting in one of your good spots that's good for late season,
Mm-hmm.
and out comes that big buck that we've all been looking for the last month and a half, and we haven't even gotten a trail cam picture of him, and here he is.
There he is.
Yep. Oh, he's in the back of Dallas's truck. It's like, and
I love it that way. That's the best way for me.
but
I feel like I've earned it at that point.
you have earned it. But I also think that you keep telling me that you don't, and you've gotten more into archery the last couple of years just because you with the crossbow. But that's a short period of time. It's only a couple of weeks. But this year you were out quite a bit with the bow.
Yeah, more than usual.
Yeah, but you just where your skill, where you are lethal, and it's in that last couple weeks. You're hunting gun all the time.
Yeah.
But that last couple weeks of season in December, you are just very, very confident in that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see from my perspective.
Oh yeah, that's where I feel I'm going to get it done at that time of year. Now I did it a different way this year. I killed a buck in a morning transition spot. Usually I've killed them on food plots in the afternoon, or I've killed them in PA.
Mm-hmm.
Doing still hunts. So those are the way I'm confident that I'm going to get it done. But this year, because of how hard I had to fight and scratch and claw the whole season, I was putting together clues that I hadn't done in the past. A lot of that is because there was no point in sitting on a food plot in the farm in the afternoon because there was no target buck. That's not to say one wouldn't show up. We had a really nice buck show up on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
That 8-point that Trigger found the shed from, but that deer, we didn't even know about him.
Well, we had one picture of him the day, it was the night after opening day, so Saturday night of opening day going into that Sunday, remember? Because Split Brow was shot, and then right in the front food plot there, that 8-point, that was
Okay.
the only time we had him all
That was a
gun
blurry
season.
picture, though. That might not have been.
Oh, it was him.
Okay.
I could tell just the way his nose was. I could tell it was him, but I'm assuming it was that buck because it's very similar, as far as the tine length and that. But
that was funny though, how that mature buck got shot, and all of a sudden that night this guy shows up. Obviously he might have been displaced because of good chance he got pushed out of the place where Split Brow got killed. To be honest, because they're just hammering shit back there. So he probably got the hell out of there. But then where he went after that, I don't know. That was almost a month later.
Yeah.
More than a month later.
Yeah.
When he came out on Christmas Eve. So yeah, it was a different year for me, but in the end it turned out good, and I felt damn good about it because like I said, I worked pretty hard at it,
Yeah.
harder than I usually do.
Yeah, starting all the way back to those, watching the trail cameras take pictures of you at 7:45, 8 o'clock at night when it's starting to rain out and you're out there seeding a new food plot that you're been working to put in. I mean, you busted your ass last year.
Yeah.
And I guess last thing on the hunting piece, and then I want to talk a little bit about food plots and some of the stuff that we're going to be approaching this year. But I mentioned I put that post up the other day with the video from with where I was sitting where my buck died with my gun, and just kind of like I just randomly was flipping through my phone trying to find a picture to send to somebody of that buck, and I was like, oh, I forgot that I took videos. So I was looking at the video. I'm like, I gotta post this. So I posted that up, and I had one of the guys that's pretty close listener to the podcast become friends with him, Eric Reeder. He's lives up in the Buffalo area, and he's only been living up here for about a year at this point. Moved up here from North Carolina, and he was, we all talk about this stuff, and we have a lot of people that are listening that are either new hunters or maybe new to the area like Eric is. And I think we don't realize, what we see and what we know from this area and this terrain, where like now I'm getting to the point where, and I'm just getting more and more confident because I can go almost anywhere. I can pick a piece of public land that I want to go check out and go shed hunt, and I go there and it's just littered with sign. And it's like, I just randomly picked this, not randomly, but I kind of was thinking about where do I want to go look, and I pick a spot and I go there and it's just loaded. So it got me, he questioned me on it. He wanted to kind of understand what I meant by like recognizing that information, and why hemlocks play a big important piece in the puzzle in this area, because he never had that to hunt with down south. So where I'm going with this point is that for you're looking for that. Those are kind of the spots that I'm finding myself to like the most. I really like hunting side hills, and I've always kind of been that way, but I like hunting side hills or ravines, heads of ravines, transitions between hardwoods and hemlocks. And I'm finding I've always been drawn to that because that's a lot of what I grew up with hunting at camp. That's our cabin's on a side hill, so everything's a hill. So I'm just kind of like that.
Yep.
But I'm finding I'm starting to like hone in on finding those pockets in all these different places in our area that I have access to hunt, where it's very consistent. It's it's transition. It's finding historic sign. In that buck I killed, it could have been any buck that came through there that day. It just happened to be that one, and he's the one that was lucky enough to meet the 7 mag. I mean, I could have shot a bigger buck. I could have shot a smaller buck. I don't know. But that buck was doing that for a reason, and many bucks over the years have done that because there was tons and tons of sign. So like you look at those points, and I'm like, this is the sort of spot I want to hunt. And so Eric was kind of picking my brain on like, why is it? So I was explaining that to him, and how I was looking at the topography, and how there's a natural escape route there from that property if there's pressure to push over to a neighboring property. And I think a big piece that I was explaining to him is understand, especially if you're hunting public, almost all of our public land in this area, at some point it borders private. And almost all of the best hunting that we're finding typically ends up being near those boundaries, because you've got, whether it's crop fields or you have thicker cover because the private landowner is managing the timber, whatever it is I'm starting to take more and more note to where the pressure is coming from. And I know this isn't a new idea. I've heard this on many guys say this on podcasts, but understanding where the hunting pressure is coming from, and then looking at topography, looking at the type of woods you have as far as whether it's thick or it's open hardwoods. And, stuff we've learned a lot of this stuff from Steve too, just that 4 hours we spent with him down in Pennsylvania looking at his areas, like just starting to put all this stuff together. So like if you're somebody out there that's listening to this that maybe all you have is access to public land, I would say one of the most important things to do is to look at the topography. Where is there like natural ravine, heads of ravines, or is there, obviously talk about saddles and points and things like that. But I'm starting to take more and more notice of where private property is and where the hunting camps are on those private properties. So like I'm taking some of these pieces and I'm actually going on like I'm using base map. I go on base map and I'm actually putting cabins, like marking them on the map so I can kind of see when I take a step back and look at it. Here's the sign I'm finding. Here's where all the camps are. So if all these guys come in here on opening day, they're probably going to come right from their camp, walk out the back door, and walk right into the property. So where's the deer going to go?
Yeah.
And that's like I'm so confident that that's exactly why I had the success I had on opening day this year with that buck, is that I knew where everybody was going to come from, and it just funneled the buck. And then an hour later, I shot the doe over the buck. So I shot 2 deer, in the same spot, flowing the same way because I knew where the pressure was coming from. So I mean, it's more of a gun hunting scenario, but it can also be archery. Like the deer are going to kind of naturally congregate away from where those pressure points are.
Yeah, it works either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm big on topo maps, just maps in general. So topo combined with the aerials. And yeah, I'm looking at the same thing. I mean, but then you got to go out there and verify it, obviously, before you even try to hunt it.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there and verify, find that old sign, find like that ravine that you're talking about. It's damn near impassable.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. That's a funnel.
Did you say pert near impassable?
Every time. So
yeah.
On a map it looks steep, but you don't know that there's not a trail going down across it.
Right.
Or if there is, that might be a good thing. But the terrain causes a lot of natural funnels, and then if you can combine that with hunting pressure and how far you had to climb to get up there, I mean, obviously, you pretty much hit the trifecta up there of tough access, plus private coming in from other directions, plus terrain and cover up there because there's a lot of open hardwood in that property too.
Oh,
There's
yeah, because you went up there with me. Yeah, so now yeah.
So, you can see it all come together when you get up there.
For sure.
I mean, me and Adam were hunting for a couple hours that morning, and we didn't see it. I mean, a couple of tracks, wide open hardwoods. I mean, it wasn't looking good.
No.
And as soon as we got up to where we were near you, where it started to plateau up there, it was like, now I see it. Right. So,
and that's people talk about, dead zones.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, a lot of times it's very hard to visualize that without snow on the ground. And that's, I wrote down shed hunting here to bust your chops. I meant to bust your chops at the beginning, but we're running this shed fest and everybody's getting out and trying to find sheds. And I'm like, so Dallas, how's your shed hunting been? And you're like, I mean, you can speak for yourself, but I don't think you've put, we've walked around a little bit after we've been done working back over there, but I don't think you're spending a ton of time physically looking for sheds.
No, for me, it's a big waste of time.
Yeah.
Don't care about it.
But my biggest but is that, getting out and walking around, whether it be, it's really nice to walk late winter when you have snow on the ground still, to just kind of see where the deer naturally move, where they naturally bed. And obviously that can be a little bit different, but it's pretty consistent. When the snow melts off and you go back in there and look at it, you can see the sign from the fall that they've left, whether it is beds or if it's scrapes and rubs and all that. You can learn a lot this time of year that's going to help you come the fall. So that's one of my, I'm not not a good shed hunter.
Yeah, well, it is. I agree with what you're saying there, but I guess that's part of the joke about shed hunting for me is that I go and I'm like, I'm going to try to find sheds today, and all I do is scout. I can't. It's not in me to be walking around and seeing and ignoring all the sign that is going to be way more helpful than finding a horn. Just finding a horn is fun, but it doesn't really do you any good. You might be used to verify the deer is still alive, but in our case, we've had pictures of all these deer that we're finding sheds of.
Right.
So, ultimately, for me, yeah, I've tried to be like, okay, today's the day. I'm just going to go out and look for sheds, and that's all I'm going to do. But I can't get over following the trails and looking. I'm looking up a lot of times because then I'm seeing scrapes and rubs and beds, and then I'm looking for trees to sit in or terrain funnels or this or that. I'm always. It's more of a scouting thing for me.
Yeah.
And this year I feel like we've got so much habitat work to do that I'd rather be running a chainsaw. And I think me and you, we knocked out a lot of good stuff last year in March and April we did cover a lot of miles on that property, and I think we did a lot of good scouting, but I feel like we also got burned by some of that too. That property, it just didn't play anywhere near the way we thought. We looked at a lot of rut sign or late season sign from last year, and things really changed. I don't know if it's the crop rotation. I'm
I
sure
think
that
that
had
was a
some.
huge
I'm sure that
impact.
had something to do with it. But it's not like they've got a lot of good crops on the rest of that block there. We got all the best food. We found a lot of really good buck beds, and I can sure they were buck beds,
Right.
and they were worn right into the ground.
Hey, we had
there was
jumped bucks out
buck
of them.
signs in and around them. We jumped bucks out of them. And every time I went in to verify them in the summer or the fall, all the way through, it's like they were just not even
They
being
weren't there.
used.
Right.
There was nothing. So
But then we go, like, so last weekend, Brian and Maya and I and Billy went. We just went for, it was so freaking cold on Sunday that wind was just bitter.
yeah,
But we jumped in the side by side and we are just driving around. And we got up in the woods and it was not too bad once you got up in the woods and out of the wind. So we got out and went for a little walk, and went over to that that bed that we found that when you're coming in. So it's on the east side of the property. That bed that we found that's kind of like right off the trail where that big buck rub is.
yeah.
So we were kind of focused on that, and there's that line of hemlocks there, and it's kind of thicker. So Brian and I, we actually jumped deer in there because we came around the trail that comes around the back to the east side of that, and then we came back around and then up the trail that heads north and south through the hardwoods. And, so we go walking in there, and that's where Maya found the match set. The deer, I mean, they were hanging heavy.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it was a group of bucks because Brian found a little shed. So there was 3 sheds in there, and we didn't really scour it that much. So they were hanging in there. That was a group of bucks. And if you went through there with the snow on the ground, there was a pretty heavily traveled, just like a single one-way, or two-way trail. They were walking in, walking out, using that. And I think they were bedding right in there and probably heading over into the hemlocks.
That's a
further.
great winter spot down there, is because there's a lot of hemlock and you're out of the wind.
Very out of the
and
wind.
there's some good cover in there. Because I know in the past when I've gone in there late winter when there was deep snow, there would just be worn out paths going from there to the back food plot. You could just see that deer were just going back and forth. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that's where some of the sign we were finding before too.
Yeah.
So
No doubt. So just wrapping out that point is anybody who's trying to learn a spot or figure out a spot, figure out what type of hunting you like to do. That's probably the first step. If you like to hunt food plots or you like to hunt fields or edges of things, then just know that. If you like hunting, I mean, if you're going to hunt side hills, hemlocks, it's not going to be you're not going to be in deer all day long, So just pick what you're looking for, but then just go put boots on the ground and look. And it might take you 2-3 years to figure a spot out like it did it for myself. But once you start to put the pieces together and feel confident about the sign you're seeing, whether it's leaving up cameras for a year to let them soak and figure out exactly when the deer are there and what they're doing, it's going to take time. It doesn't just happen overnight, but figure that out and stick with it, because it's like putting the pieces together. And once the puzzles together and that opportunity presents itself, it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
So, food plots, jump right into that. So we did our habitat last month. We did our live podcast there with John and Ben. I enjoyed the hell out of those. They were a lot of fun, and it was meant to talk about stuff you could be doing during the winter to improve your property. And it was basically all around food plots. So I don't really want to belabor the point of like exact stuff with food plots, but we can kind of hit on a little bit of what we're doing there. I guess the bigger part of the conversation is kind of stuff that we're purchasing a piece of equipment. So we figure we can talk about that. We can kind of start there and kind of talk about what our plans are with that and what that looks like, because I think it's relatable to people.
yeah, yeah, we're getting a 2-row John Deere corn planter. That's a 3-point hitch mount, and it's gonna be all set up for no-till. So we're gonna be no-tilling corn and soybeans with our own corn planter, and that's transitioning from Dad planting big fields for us before with his big equipment, which meant you could put all the corn in you want, but it had to be a big piece of it somewhere, basically, so you could get in there with a planter and a sprayer and a zone tiller and everything with a giant tractor, to now we can get in and do like 6 rows of corn, long strips or winding strips or whatever, more tucked in towards the woods, or just whatever spots we want to do, we can get into and having it set up no-till was my big thing, because that also allows you, so you don't have to get in and till up a piece of property where, if you have a disc or something like that, you'd have to, drive around in circles and be able to turn around and things like that. So it was a bit of an investment, but we're going to split it up between a couple groups of people and share the responsibility there. So
yeah, it's like
yeah.
it's what it's like 30. Let's just say $3,500
Yeah.
roughly, and that
Mhm.
includes shipping and everything.
Yeah.
That's to our door. So we're you got a couple guys from work that they've got a group of 3 or 4 of them that hunt together or whatever.
Yeah.
So they have a tractor that's the perfect size for that. We have, we've got the 4000 John Deere, but we feel it's probably just a little bit too big because it would probably compact the ground too much. On kind of like overlapping the rows, we would probably compact stuff in too much.
Well,
with
after I figured it out, that tractor would be perfect as far as the rows.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
The 4000.
because we'd just be able to drive over the same tracks every time.
Oh, okay.
So we could use that, but using the smaller tractor might still be better. Plus, we'll if we want to go between to different places,
Be easier.
he's got a trailer that the tractor and the planter will fit right on too. So we
Nice.
can just move it around with a dump trailer then too. So
Yeah. So doing this, we're able to pretty affordably, for $600 a piece, basically,
Yeah.
we're going to be able to have a nice planter, no-till. We're trying to kind of stay with that no-till flavor, trying not to turn the ground
yeah.
up.
Yeah, I'm pretty solid on that.
Yeah. So it's really nice to have. I'm excited about it. Like I was kind of I don't know how I feel about splitting it with people, but at the end of the day, if it's just a gentleman's agreement, if somebody breaks any piece of it, it's their responsibility to fix it. You know what I mean? That's not me peeing. It's this freaking water system. It always does a backwash at the worst possible time. So people just have to listen.
You could just unplug it ahead of time.
I could.
So we're gonna have that as an option for food plots, and then I'm gonna be frost seeding in some clover and chicory here. Will probably get here today, and now we're kind of getting past the frost part of the forecast here, but it'll still be fine. I think the ground's wet and everything. And
So where did you buy for that? Because I wanted to kind of give those guys a plug.
Yeah, I got it from Domain. Hot Chick, it's called.
Domain Outdoors, I think is what
Yeah.
they.
Yeah.
So I heard them on the Antler Up podcast, and just sound like a couple really cool guys. And they've got just kind of a small business where they're just custom mixing high quality seed blends.
Mhm.
And that's something that you hear a lot about some of the big brands and the the stuff you go to the big box stores and buy bags of. There's a lot of filler, so it's just something for people to keep in mind. It may seem like a great price, but you're truly getting what you pay for, because the seed costs what the seed costs for these guys to bag it and put it together. So just be aware of that. Like there's some of these companies that they specialize in this stuff, and it's going to be a higher quality mix than what you'd get if you went and bought some big name brand at Tractor Supply or something like that.
At least if you go to those places, you can read the label.
Yeah.
And it'll say weed matter on there, or it'll say ryegrass. And the reason that they put ryegrass in those mixes is because ryegrass is different from rye grain. So ryegrass is basically what you'd see growing in your yard. Well, the reason they put that seed in there is because it'll germinate at almost 100% rate under almost any conditions. So what'll happen is you won't have a failure as a food plot. So if you do a bad job, or even if you do like brassicas, you're supposed to plant them at a really low seed rate so that they have room to grow. So if you prepare your soil, you till it, you spend all this time, you pack it down, you do everything you think right, and you got a few brassicas popping up here and there, and there's a lot of space, and then all of a sudden weeds will start coming in and taking over. You're going to be like, what the hell, this food plot mix didn't work. So what they do is they mix ryegrass in there so that everything will grow in and look nice and green in the fall, and you'll be like, oh, look at that food plot, it's nice and green. But what you don't realize is you have a perennial ryegrass in there, so it's going to keep coming back over and over again, and the longer it's there, the worse it's going to get. It'll just take over you'll have to kill it off. So, but then again, all the food plot companies claim that they don't do that. The other guys do that. So I'll tell you this, we'll find out, because the Domain, they didn't have their labels online, but it didn't look like there was anything. But they do sell their stuff at runnings. In
Domain does?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They have it in stock in Canandaigua, but it's free shipping. So that is one thing I'll say that most companies don't offer free shipping, and they do. So I just bought, $60 worth of seed and had it shipped. So we'll try it out.
Nice.
See what happens. So yeah, we're gonna do some top seeding there, and then we'll do our brassicas in the fall. We'll probably do buckwheat grow in June. Give that 6 to 7 weeks, and try to plant brassicas August 1st.
You think and do what we did last year with kind of overseed it and then mat that
Yep.
buckwheat down.
Yeah, that worked really good.
That was fun, and the deer seemed to really like the buckwheat. They were in there a lot throughout the summer, and it's good visual cover. And
Yeah, they seem to hang in it. They don't eat it much, but you want that because you don't want them mowing down your. Buckwheat is a smother crop, so you're trying to get a good thick stand of it so it'll keep the weeds out. And then you top seed into it with your fall food. In other words, just a shoulder spreader broadcasted in. And then you roll the buckwheat down, crimp it if you can. We just have a roller. Roll it down, and then I just sprayed it lightly with glyphosate. It kills it immediately because all the stems are broken open.
mm-hmm.
And then it leaves that nice, even layer of really thick thatch over top of it, and the brassicas grow up through it. It worked really well.
Yeah, and I think we talked about trying to put the brassica in a little bit earlier, this upcoming year.
Yeah, we were 2 to 3 weeks late last year, and we knew it. We just were behind on that, but
Right.
Try to go second week of June with the buckwheat and August 1st for the brassicas. You try to time it with a little bit of rainfall.
Are you thinking we still try to do that little kill plot that you put in last year down on the north side of the road?
Yeah, I'm going to extend that a little bit, I think, if we can.
Yeah, I think we can. I was a little bit disappointed with that, honestly. During hunting season, it just didn't seem to really draw the deer in a whole lot.
That side of the road just was no good.
No.
There was just
we
no
weren't really
deer
getting
over
any
there.
pictures.
And that's where I usually have my best late season hunting is over there, where we'll see a lot of deer, and it just wasn't.
But there was so much stuff that changed this year.
Yeah.
I mean, with the hedgerows, and even though it's a little thing, they put the drain and dug the swamp out, and it didn't, not that it really changed the swamp that much, but I don't know, like the swamp was interrupted a little bit, So it's just there was so much change on the property last year, like structurally.
Yeah, it might take a year for things to reset a little bit. Plus,
the
whole property was corn too, so it was kind of a monoculture there. The only soybeans were our food plots, which they were in them all summer, so the deer were in there eating the soybeans. But what I didn't know was going to happen was the way they were going to harvest the corn. So first of all, I thought they'd chop all of the corn, which I think they had planned on it. So they chop it and then they plant winter wheat in it, so you get a cover crop there, so there's something green. Well, they did that to about half of it, and then they left the rest of it standing into the first week of November, and then came in and combined it. Well, usually when Dad combines corn, you get the stalks standing there, and there's some waste grain on the ground, and the deer are able to pick through it. They love that fresh combined corn. Well, the way the all-meters do it is they're a big operation. They do things a little differently. So Dad zone tills the ground. In other words, it's kind of like a no-till, but you just dig the channels where the corn gets planted, and you plant your corn there, and the rest of the soil doesn't get disturbed. They came in the spring, and they used what they call the joker, which I never seen before. It just tills up the top. It just breaks up the top inch or two of ground. And the reason they said they did that is because Dad's fields were too rough for them from the way he had worked them over the years, because he's only using a combine going at a really slow speed. They want to come in with a corn chopper and go like 6 miles an hour with trucks and a corn chopper and do everything at like NASCAR speed.
Right.
So they need to have good smooth ground. So when that doesn't matter in the spring when they're planting, but in the fall, after they combine that, they came in and disked down all that corn, and they kind of buried everything.
That makes sense.
So there was still some corn to be found, but a lot of it got buried.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anywhere near the waste grain.
And then they came in and spread manure on it.
Yeah.
Right after, so
Heavily.
Everything had shit on it.
Yeah. So that worked out differently than I thought it was gonna, with having them come in and put crops. Now I think now they're gonna be rotating in some more alfalfa and things like that, more green. So it'll get better.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a shock to the system this year with having them farm it for the first time.
Oh,
It was
for
like,
sure.
oh, they do things differently,
Yeah.
than what we're used to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how things continue to ebb and flow and change there. I think the work that we're doing, it's kind of made us, obviously we've talked about stepping back and taking a look at the property a little bit differently. And so now, we're driving a lot of the food more out towards the front, and we're trying to create more bedding in the back. And, we illustrated that and talked about that on the podcast with the live version of it. And,
yeah, we're going forward with that.
yeah. And I don't know if you saw the post John put up yesterday of he had a client that's working on very similar situation to us. He's taking a field and trying to convert it, so he's dragging a bunch of tops out into the field this time to start creating some cover and structure out there. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a great head start. I mean, when we started, it was probably the middle of January we started working out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made some serious headway on buckthorn, on dropping ash, on apple trees, releasing apple trees. I mean,
We're finding
identified
trees all over the place that we didn't know we had.
I would really like to take a survey and go through and just try to number them, and just maybe even take a nap and just plot where they are, because I'll bet you we've got 50 plus apple trees at least on that. I don't know how many acres that is, 50, 60 acres up back, maybe
Not
a little
even.
more. No. I mean, there's a lot of apple trees, and there's some that could do really well. And where they are and knowing where the deer move, I mean, if they were producing consistently, talk about a reason for the deer to hang a little closer and to be in those areas. I mean, you give them, apples for not only the food portion, but it seems to just be like a community type scenario. You have apples, it seems to just kind of congregate them in an area. So, yeah, we're making some really good headway. And just random thought in something that came up this week when I was out talking to a customer. Apparently, ash is selling pretty well right now for the baseball bat companies are just producing a shitload of ash bats.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is just if it's just a regional thing or if it's something. So I reached out to a guy yesterday just to kind of pick his brain and see if there's really any value. If we have any of those logs that even if they're worth just a, even if it's not a ton of money, just anything, how nice would that be to, there is quite a lot of ash up there that's, 10, 12 inches in diameter that's fairly straight and not dead yet. That, I mean, maybe there could be a little bit of money there that we could pull out of that. That'd be pretty sweet. So I'm looking into that because some income to pay for all this stuff that we're doing would be kind of nice so it's not coming out of our pocket.
Yeah.
I know it's cute to say that everything's a net loss, but after a certain point it's yeah, we should probably, there should be some financial benefit to doing all the work we're doing, We talked about doing firewood, but it's do any of us have the time
No.
to freaking commit to selling firewood? No. That's
We all have good jobs that we can just make more money working if we want to make money. But I guess the reason we talked about it was because if we're out there cutting and dragging logs and things like that, anyways, it's maybe we could just try to get something
we don't want
back
to just
out
keep
of it.
dropping stuff to rot. You want to see some value taken out of it. But any other thoughts on anything like that we're working on, food plot wise or property wise?
No, not as far as work that we're doing, I guess.
Yeah, we'll keep updating as that all progresses, but excited to get that planner and see what we can do. One thing I do want to mention is that we are this week. So normally NWTF does a conservation seed program, but this year I think they did do it last year, but that was all kind of pre-COVID and it went real quick and I didn't know about it. And I reached out to them to see if they were doing it this year. They typically have soybean and corn available, and it's usually the leftover seed from the year prior that you can buy at an extremely discounted price if you're a member of the organizations. So QDMA, NDA, they posted on one of their local chapters here that they've got some coming in this year for members around the area. So something, I know we're doing the Shed Fest and it's trying to encourage people to obviously get out and shed hunt, but you're you're getting out of that. You're getting a 1-year membership to the National Deer Association, and it's a huge perk, to get. So we're going to look at buying seed for our food plots that we're going to do. Can't be harvested, can't be sold. They are very straightforward with DEC. That's part of the deal, is that you're going to plant this and it's going to be left up for deer and turkeys and pheasants and everything else to benefit from. But I mean, you're getting these bags of seed that should be, $100, $100+ for a bag of seed. You're going to get it for $25 to $30 a bag. So that's an incredible savings. Just, you got your membership, you're a member, you're active and participating. You're going to get, that's a pretty slick benefit. So I think that's where we're going to get our soybean and corn seed from this year, and that'll be a great savings to us right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about that. But we're at about an hour. Did you want to chat about some of our reflections on gear choices this year?
Sure.
Because I know that we did our 4-hour-long podcast on the deck where we were planning on talking about just our mobile hunting stuff back over the summer, but it turned into Brian and you getting extremely intoxicated and Brian telling.
Hey, don't act like you were sober.
Oh, I was, because I had to drink more to listen to Brian's freaking drawn out stories. I'm like, he's bitching about how long my stories are, and then he won't freaking let stuff go. And if you would like a long, entertaining podcast, I would say that's one to go back and listen to. It was a 2-parter. It was called Beers on the Deck, and we got into some real great stories, and everybody was getting pretty lubed up. So, I definitely recommend you go back and check that out if you'd like some entertainment. But a couple years ago, I got into the saddle hunting and more of the, I would say saddle hunting. You had been getting into the mobile stuff with your lone wolf and doing that for a couple years prior as well. But everybody in our gang last year jumped into saddle hunting after I had the success with it that I did the year prior. So kind of wanted to just chat through that with you, some of your thoughts on it after using it for a year, and just did you enjoy it? Did you feel the benefit of it? What's the pros and cons? Because I think one of the things that happens in this realm is that everybody only talks about the positives. And, it's the greatest thing. You got to saddle hunt. I do feel that way, but there's others, and I think you and Brian had a little bit different perspective on it from trying to use them throughout the year. So I kind of want to unpack that a little bit.
Okay. So I bought the new tethered Phantom. That's the new one.
Yep.
And as far as saddles go, I mean, that thing it's great. I think that's the one to have. So what it became for me was I had a couple of goals as far as doing that. One is I've been monkeying around with the Lone Wolf setup before with the sticks and the tree stand and everything, but I never had a good system. And I didn't use it enough because it was more like, I think I need the Lone Wolf today, so I'll try to use it. But it was 3-4 times a year, and it was like a monkey fucking a football every time I tried to set it up. So I said this year, not only am I going to get the saddle, but I'm going to take the time in the off season to get all my gear right and get a system. So I did that. I accomplished that. Almost every bow hunt I did all year was out of the saddle, and quite a bit of gun hunting too. What I found was that my body is not physically capable of doing as much saddle hunting as I wanted to. I'm getting older and my body's breaking down. I have a bad back now, which wasn't even really too much of an issue before the season, so I know the saddle hunting didn't help. And I have a bad knee. So I work on concrete, on machines, on just, like I'm on my feet a lot. Like, so I've noticed it a lot more since the deer season is when I've really had a hard time. But I had a hard time with the saddle because what I couldn't get over before I bought it was I couldn't understand how everyone said it was so comfortable, because you have to stand the whole time and lean back and put all that weight on your feet. So I thought I could sit, because a lot of people say you could sit, but that wasn't comfortable for me. And leaning back and putting all that weight on my feet, which then put the pressure on my knees, my hips, my back, it was just too much. Now, as far as the pros, I did see a lot of the benefits that you're seeing out of it. It's lightweight, it's easy to set up. I love climbing with it. Like, I don't regret having it at all, and I'm going to keep hunting out of it, but I'm just going to try to be a little bit more careful. Like, a couple hours at a time is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to do some half-day sits with it, or then there was one day where I sat, like, 4 hours in the morning, relocated, had lunch, relocated, and sat for, like, another 4 hours in the afternoon. And by the last hour, I was just in so much pain. My body just couldn't take that much. So you got to think about your body type and the shape you're in before you're going to get into it. But I would still say that having a saddle is probably a good thing for anybody who's interested in doing any kind of mobile hunting. Because in the end, I found a lot more uses for it. Because number one, it is a sweet piece of tree setup gear, like stand setups and things, tree climbing gear, which I've never, I've always done things, by holding onto the tree and screwing steps in, or hanging sticks by holding onto the tree and, like, never being tied in right or anything.
Mm-hmm.
The saddle, especially the Phantom, you can wear it in and wear it around. Like, when I tried yours initially, it kept wanting to sag down on me, but the new one's nice because it's got the adjustable bridge, so you can pull it tight and it won't fall down on you.
Yeah.
So you can wear it around while you're scouting or setting up or just going to and from your stand, so that saves you a bunch of time setting up. You throw your lineman rope around the tree and you can climb right up with your sticks and everything. And I figured out a really good setup for carrying my sticks up the tree and getting them set up. I got into a good rhythm doing that. But then I also found, once I realized that bow hunting wasn't always going to be the best out of that because of the comfort factor, then I started occasionally carrying my Lone Wolf in and the saddle. Then I'm using the saddle for setting up, getting up the tree and setting up and everything. And the reason why I like that better than just wearing like a safety harness is because I've got the pouches on the side, so I put all my straps and everything I need in there.
For your tree stand?
Yeah, for my sticks and my stand.
Yeah.
All my straps are in there, and the strap that I hang around the tree is in there. So
keep talking.
So then when I get up and I hang the stand, I'm just using the saddle as actually my safety harness. And then I took it one step further in gun season. Where I killed my buck was I finally figured out the spot where I wanted to be in, and I said, I'm just going to hang my climber here because it was in a maple tree that I could get in like 30 plus feet up in. Well, with a climber, safety is a consideration when you're climbing because those cables are the only thing holding in you. If those cables break, if the bottom cable breaks, you're going to fall to your death.
Right.
If you're up high enough. But I've tried doing it with a safety harness with the lanyard behind your back, and it kind of gets in the way while you're climbing. So now I'm taking my tether, putting it on the tree, and because your saddle is front facing, so if the bridge is out in front of you, you can hang your tether up above your climbing tree stand, and you can just move it up as you go. And again, when you get to the top, you just cinch down the tether, and it becomes a safety harness. So you never have to unbuckle from the tree.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great piece of safety equipment, and I did that a couple times. I used mine this year, like that double setup on the backside of the hardwoods. I went and sat that one night. It's actually a ladder stand, and then there's a portable, and I went up the ladder stand, and I think I don't know if I stood on the top platform or the seat of the ladder stand, or if I stood on the portable. I can't remember, but I had my saddle on, and I just used it as my safety harness. And if I wanted to lean around or whatever, so I think you can. It's not really talked about that much, but I think you can use that. It's a great piece of safety equipment.
Right.
Like even if it's only for going and setting up your stands.
Yeah.
It's super nice. Like I've got a couple different actual safety harnesses, and I don't know, they just don't seem to like that. There's something about that, like the setup with the saddle with that lineman's belt that's just like super comfortable and super securing. It's just nice.
Yeah, when you're climbing with it, it's the best.
Yeah. So I just pulled this thing out. So I'm excited. I'm part of the that Genesis 3D printing. Austin, he started a field staff this year, so he put the feelers out for anybody that would be interested. So I was fortunate enough to put my application in and be selected for that. So he's working on a bunch of new stuff. So what this thing is I don't think he's got a name for it yet, but what it is basically it's hard to visualize, and I don't have it here, but you know how you've got your cinch strap that you use for your lone wolf or even for your tethered platform. So this is designed to go around the tree. So one end hooks to the this end you tie to one eyelet of your cinch strap, and then the other side you have the cable in here, the cinch strap in here on this end with the eyelet sticking out, and you basically like preset it on the tree, and then you put your platform or your stand up, put those loops on, and just give it that last little cinch, and you're good.
Okay.
So instead of having to like hold your stand up and throw the line around and grab it and put it on there and cinch it down, like it's a pretty. I don't have a setup for that directly because I use that Hawk hangout tree seat for my platform, but I can definitely see where the value will be for that.
Yeah, especially on a tree stand.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf does have the pre-hung bracket, and I think some of the other ones do. So you put a strap with a bracket and then clip it on there.
I think the Millenniums have that. I think Brian's Millennium does that.
Yeah, but I haven't used mine yet for Lone Wolf because Lone Wolf also has the offset bracket on the top so that you can get on crooked trees.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to use the other bracket, you have to take the offset bracket off. So I don't know. I could definitely.
Yeah. So there.
But that could be nice just for hanging any tree stand, though. Just doing your pre-hung sets,
Yeah, Austin over at Genesis, we had him on here about this time last year when he was first kind of getting his business going, and I bought a bunch of his stuff, and I use the snot out of it, especially he's got a Versa button, like the deal where you can, you have your Versa button on your stick, that you put your ropes around. I use those Versa buttons. I had 2 or 3 of them, and I had one in my backpack for when I'm carrying my sticks in to hunt. I had one on my hip belt of my backpack, and then I also had one on the actual tether on my saddle. Those things work awesome because the sticks are right there, and then I've got his little brackets that I don't know I forget what he calls them, but they're the little stick stack stow deals he's got for the climbing sticks so that they can snap together. And be secure together, so I can put them on the hip, and when I'm ready for another one, I just pop it off the other one. Freaking slick. So there's some really cool stuff he's working on, and the group, I think there's 6 or 7 of us that are field staff, and it's just fun kind of talking with them and brainstorming ideas of different stuff that can be used and developed that is for any type of hunting. It doesn't have to be just saddle hunting, like a lot of this stuff converts over to the classic portable style hunting, and you can do a lot of that pretty mobile. And as you get more and more of these little unique tools to help you do it, it works great. So, yeah, I enjoyed watching Brian in particular try to enjoy. He was putting so much time into trying to figure his sticks out and the platform and everything, and at the end of the day, he just wasn't happy. Like, he just didn't really enjoy the saddle hunting because he just didn't feel comfortable and quick and efficient getting up the tree. I think he's
Right.
much more of a portable guy than he is a.
Right. Well, I was there too. Wasn't comfortable. Didn't have a good system.
I gotta go pee pee. I'm over here. I'm probably making you uncomfortable because I'm touching myself, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm all better. So where were we? I interrupted you. I was asking you something about
A system. Brian didn't take enough time to get a system down, and that's the thing. Like, if you're going to go into this type of hunting, you have to go at it. That's what I realized it over a few years that I wasn't efficient at doing a quick setup and all that stuff. So that was one of my goals for this year, was that I was going to dedicate to my mobile setup. And I spent a lot of time in the off season. I realized a lot of the things that I was short. I made a system for getting my sticks and my straps and everything together, and getting up and down the tree efficiently and getting set up, not only fast and efficient but safe. And that's one of the biggest things with the whole. It's not just the saddle. I mean, if you have a safety harness with a lineman rope, but my whole life I never even knew there was such a thing. Like, we were setting up. It's no wonder we never moved our stands enough very often, because it was so dangerous to hang a freaking tree stand. I mean, you were doing everything with one hand while you were hugging the tree with the other hand. It's like so stupid, but just never knew any different, And I finally got that figured out, but still, you have to go and if you're going to use this as a tool, mobile hunting as a tool, you can't go at it half-ass. You have to go all in on it, at least until the point where you're good at it, and then you can make adjustments from there. Like, I realize now I'm not going to be able to hunt out of the saddle as much as I thought maybe I'm gonna, but it's one of my tools. But I used saddle hunting this year to figure out all the other advantages that it could bring to me. Just I'd say I sat in a pre-hung tree stand once this year, and it was more of a observation sit.
Mm-hmm.
I sat in a blind maybe twice, the elevated blind, with Emma, and I sat on the ground with her maybe 3 times, and I probably hunted myself on the ground a couple of times. I hung out the lone wolf probably 3 or 4 times. I probably did 30 plus saddle hunts. And then I hunted out of my climber about 6 or 8 times towards the end of the season. But I did that because I figured out the spot where I wanted to be. And instead of trying to hang a stand, I just said, hey, I'm just going to hang the climber. It's gun season. I want to get up as high as I can, and I want to have a shooting rail and a comfortable place to sit. A climber is a perfect way to do that, other than having to get it up and down the tree every time. So I evolved as the season went on, but I was able to make all those moves really quickly and efficiently because I had all the tools that I needed to. And it ended up paying off in the end.
Yeah.
I ended up being in the spot where I needed to be without a big hassle. I didn't have to go up in there with making all kinds of noise, bringing my buddies in there, telling them what branches to trim and this, all the shit you go through to try to hang those
whether putting a portable up or a ladder stand, there's just a lot of work to that. And every ladder stand, every portable costs $100, $150, $200 if you're buying sticks and everything else. Like,
right.
It's a lot of money to have all those stands. So that's like one of the beauties of, for sure, of having that mobile setup that is comfortable and efficient to use, whether it is a portable or it is a saddle and a climber too. But no doubt these portable setups now and the saddles are just incredibly effective. If you get comfortable with it, and when you get to the tree, you know where this goes and where that goes, and when you get up, this is where I put that.
Difference. Yeah.
And that's, for me, this being having been my second year, like I have not hunted I've a couple times been in like a preset stand, but almost every single time I've gone out, I've been with the saddle over the last 2 seasons. And there was 3 things I bought that directly affected my ability to hunt this year, mobile wise. And that was, I run a Kafaru backpack, frame pack, and I was using my big Western style bag, huge bag, the first year. And I had Hawk helium sticks, and they were heavy, and they were metal, and they were loud. So you're like trying to be quiet with all this. You got metal straps on them, or the cinch straps had the metal buckle. It's just a lot of opportunity for noise. And then I got this giant ass backpack that is like 6,500 cubic inches that I was using. So it was hard. You didn't really want to take that up in the tree because it took up so much space.
Right.
Made a huge ball of something up there. So, but I still had success, and I don't think it really hindered me. But this year, I purchased a different bag for my Kafaru setup. I purchased a striker bag. They've since come out with a new version, the XL, which just kind of made a few adjustments. Water bottle pocket, a little bit larger cubic inch, I think, but same principle. But that pack was freaking perfect for mobile hunting. Because you had the meat shelf in there that I could stack any of my gear in. So if I had layers, like if I'm hiking in somewhere to go in, a mile and a half a mile, whatever, but I'm hiking up a hill, I don't want to be wearing my heavy outer layers because I'm going to sweat my ass off, So I'd walk in with very minimal clothing on, but I had that meat shelf space there between the actual bag and the frame where I could stuff all my stuff in there. And then when I was fortunate enough to actually kill something, I had that meat shelf, and that's something I had with the other bag, but there was more to it. It wasn't as easy to operate. And then with having that bag and getting more efficient with that, I then had those components I talked about from Genesis. That the Versa button hanger was probably the biggest tool for me this year. And then he's got a couple of these like 3D printed bow hangers that you can put on the tree with just a ratchet, like a cinch strap or 550 cord. It's like those sort of things help me. But when it goes back to the pack, those Genesis components attaching to my backpack made everything so solid and so compartmentalized on the backpack. And then I bought it was a big investment, but I bought I believe they're the C1 sticks, I think is what they are, from Timber Ninja, and they came out last spring, and they're expensive, but I sold one of my sets of Hawk Heliums for $100 and kind of covered a portion of that cost. But I spent a lot of money on those steps, but they're incredibly light. They're carbon fiber. They're dead quiet. I have nothing but good things to say about those sticks and my experience with them. So I went and purchased, the new bag and the new sticks, and I kept the same platform, kept the same saddle. I'm very comfortable with those pieces of my setup. And then I just added and tweaked a few of those things and then added the components from Genesis. And it's like now all of a sudden, like, things are like, I probably shaved 10 pounds off of my setup, and then everything is more compact. It's quieter. It's got a way to be tightened down and tied to my pack so it's not just flopping around. Those Hawk Helium sticks, I think you've run them.
Well, I got the 20s though.
You have the shorter ones,
Yeah.
but I mean, I had the 30. I think they were 33 inches,
32, I think, with
and
3
like
steps.
they got to weigh 4 pounds, 3-4 pounds a piece. So you put 3 of them together and then strap them to your backpack. It's like
Right,
you're
'cause
freaking
the-
wagging your tail all
The
the way through
length
the
of
woods.
them makes it worse
Yeah.
too.
So those are 3 products that I really want to do. I want to do some like review videos of them, and show how I set up my backpack, because I couldn't be happier with the way that all of that stuff performed. And the 3 things about those 3 companies, and there's one other company I want to mention, but I really this past year focused on trying to look at where I spent my money. I wanted to support American-made goods, small business type deals. So I've been a fan of Kafaru for years, and I love their backpack stuff. So obviously that's all American-made, 100%, every stitch and thread. And the Timber Ninja sticks, same way. Small business. Jason Red, nice guy, very approachable. Anything you need. So like I really enjoyed supporting him. And then you got Austin at Genesis. He's building all this stuff and developing it and designing it. He's doing it all. So it was really cool to support him. And he's got great products. Not like you're just doing it just because of that. Like they have the product to back it up. And then at about this time last year, I bought a new bino harness that T&K Hunting Gear came out with the bino harness, and I bought it. And then they actually came out with a Gen 2 of it, which was significantly smaller and addressed a lot of the issues that the first one had. And I sold the first one, and I bought the new one. And I couldn't be happier with those pieces. It seems like a bino harness seems like and I think you run a bino harness now, but having never had one growing up, and like your binos are they're inside your jacket, so they're all steamy, or they're out in the elements and you get snow on them or water. And, you take a bino harness, and these things are so able now to put attachments on them so you can put your, whether it's extra ammunition or muzzleloader bullets or your cell phone, tags, things like that. It can just all be right in your chest rig. So like all this stuff, as you build a kit out of what you're trying to go into the woods with, like everything has a place, and it's much more compact and comfortable. And so those are the 4 companies I've had written down here of like top new gear I have from this past year. And those are 4 things that I want to just shout out. Those companies I know, other than, I'm working with Genesis as a field staff, but there's no financial benefit to me saying any of that other than the fact that they're 4 companies that I've enjoyed supporting, I believe in. I think they stand for a lot of the same things that we all do. And I think it's cool to support that. Some of these, it's hard to avoid some of the lesser price stuff out there and some of these bigger brands, because sometimes you just only have so much money to spend.
Yeah.
And I get that. But for me, if, like that Kafaru backpack, it's as good as bulletproof, and if something happens with it, you send it back to them, they fix it. I have an issue with my stick. I had one of my sticks, one of the steps it's a little bit loose. I messaged Jason, he's sending me components, so it's just different. You're not going to get that with some of these major massive companies. They physically don't have the ability to do that because they're supporting millions of customers, not, niche groups and smaller focused customer bases. So I don't know. just some of my thoughts on gear-wise, the things I was using last year. And you've kind of narrowed it down a bit, too. You've kind of fine-tuned your backpack, and you seem to like that one you've got, over the last 2-3 years. You've been using that and feeling more and more fluent with it.
Yeah, I just have a smaller Alps Outdoors pack with an internal frame, and I thought I was going to have to go to something bigger this year, but I've already spent enough money for this year, and it's only March. And besides that, one of the problems was I first didn't want to wear my saddle into the woods, so I was packing that inside, and it takes up more room than you would think, especially after you had all the straps and everything in there for your platform and your sticks and everything. And once I figured out how to wear the saddle in and then have the pouches with all the stuff on it and be comfortable and and organized and everything, it just freed up a ton of room in my backpack. So I'm not too it's still a good whitetail hunting backpack, and it's just not something that's going to be in the budget for this year. But the next time I do buy a backpack, I want to try to get it right. But
yeah,
I'll tell you, the problem with all this stuff is there's so much shit to choose from, whether it's boots or backpacks or bows or arrows or just whatever it is. There's just 1,000 different things, and they all claim to be the best, Yeah. It makes your head spin.
It does. And it especially if you're somebody brand new to hunting and you step into this space, it's like
yeah.
What do I buy, So there's there's only one way to learn a lot of. I mean, I find it comical, but it also makes me happy that everybody around me, like kind of again, like I was the first one. Everybody was buying packs as we started doing these Western hunts. Brian and Danny and I and your dad, like everybody's buying different branded stuff, and I've been following along with Kifaru for probably 6-7 years now, and like I not only believe in the product, I believe in the company, and I value the information that I've learned from listening to their podcast and listening to Aaron Snyder and just the different things that he's helped me with. Like I feel like there's value there to give back, that he's given me all that information and the company's given me all that information over the last few years. Like I didn't pay a penny for that. So if I buy a backpack and I believe in the product, that go that direction. But like Jimmy and Brian both bought Badlands packs this past summer, really didn't spend that much less than what they would have spent if they would have bought a Kifaru, and neither one of them are happy with their packs. Brian's freaking cutting and stitching and trying to do this and that. It's like, just stop, So then, Danny, he just bought a Kifaru, and I'm excited to have him get out there and try that out. And sidebar, funny story, he sold his pack, and he had quite the rodeo with it. He sold his pack. He wanted a certain amount of money, and he listed it as excellent condition, and he shipped it to the guy, and the guy got it, and it's been worn, and it's probably carried 6-8 animals in that pack, if not more, over the last 4 hunting seasons, 4 hunting seasons. So the guy gets it, and like pockets are a little bit stretched, and there's blood on it. And he freaking tore Danny a new one, like threatened to like smear his name all over the internet. And he's got a cousin or brother that lives in Buffalo, and I know your address and all this shit. So he kind of like strong-armed Danny into giving him a credit, towards the use of the package that was not that. But, at the end of the day, I think you got to try this stuff on. That's the tough part about these packs is that, it's a lot of money. And if you can save $100, I can't blame anybody for saving $100. But I really feel like once you try it on and you wear it in a scenario where you put 30, 40, 50 plus pounds in it, you really start to feel the difference between brand A and brand B. And I'd love to do some sort of, it probably realistically won't happen this year. Maybe it will. But it'd be cool to do some sort of like a gear swap or like a get-together type deal at whether it be a park or an archery club or something where guys can just bring their stuff. And if people want to try out this platform or that saddle or try on this backpack or see what these boots look like, it seems kind of corny, but I think it'd be a great idea. And if guys wanted to sell gear, they could bring stuff.
Yeah.
So I've talked with a couple guys locally about doing something like that, and I actually talked with Russ Henches about maybe doing something like that up at Windy Brew and just do like a summer afternoon. And
they'll never get any gear out of the truck then.
Maybe not.
I wouldn't.
Well, because he wants to do some more beer stuff together because that went so well. I mean, we sold that beer out in a week.
Yeah.
So he wants to do a bigger batch of that same beer. So we're thinking about doing that during the summer this time instead of doing it late in the fall. It's kind of like a afterthought.
Yeah.
Do it then, and then we, maybe just they'll have the big tent out back again this summer, and we can, just have the tent and everybody can just have their stuff back there. And I think that'd be pretty cool. Whether like I've got some stuff that I would love to sell, but I just don't spend the time to like post it up online to see if somebody wants to buy it. But if I brought it there, safety harnesses and stuff that I don't use ever, like might as well bring it. I got hunting camel that I never touch, and I gave half that shit away to AJ, and he's wearing all my old stuff that's like, damn, that's a nice jacket. I never should have given that away. I paid like $150 for that,
Yeah.
But he loves it, so it's like taking something away from your kid that they're happy with. I can't do that to him. But yeah, that's something I'd like to do in the future, is some sort of like kind of get-togethers where people can come and check out other things and figure out what they want. And at the end of the day, not everybody, we go back to the saddle stuff. I mean, not everybody's built for it. Not everybody likes it, but you don't know until you try it.
Right.
So if you can kind of cut that learning curve a little shorter, it'd be definitely worth the while. So yeah. What else? Anything? What do you got going on this weekend? Are we going to get over there and do some work? It's supposed to be nice out.
I'll be working this weekend.
Wiring. Yeah. You almost done with that project?
I'm done with that one.
Oh,
yeah.
On to the next.
On to something else now.
Nice. Well, I'm thinking I'm going to try to, I got the kids all day tomorrow. Sarah's working, so I think I'm going to try to parlay that Sunday into, it's supposed to be like 60 degrees and sunny on Sunday with like no wind. I'm going to try to get over there and do some more tree work and get some stuff. I still want to, I've been finding time to get out and go for walks between like 4 and 5 o'clock on weekdays. And I'll probably just keep doing that because it's tough to get a ton of work done in that short period of time. But if I can get these next couple weekends, really the month of April before green up, I really want to try to get a lot of this stuff that we want to try to get accomplished this year, cutting wise, get that stuff done so that I want to give the apple trees a good shot. Some of these, if we can get good sunlight action to them, and some of the stuff out from underneath them, give them a chance to.
Yeah, now's definitely the time to do that.
Yeah, because
Before they
any
start to
time now
bud
it's going to start budding. If we get these
Next
60-degree
week we're gonna
days.
see that. It looks like the forecast, actually, they kind of just changed it. It looks looking pretty nice next week. So.
Oh yeah, they were showing some rain towards the end of the week, but not really.
Maybe the end of the week.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but it's going to start to feel like spring a little bit here. I'm sure it'll come back and slap us in the face again. But
probably at freaking May 5th, we get some lake effect snow like we did last year.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll probably focus on that this weekend then. I'll probably go and try to just attack some of those final apple trees I really want to try to make sure are getting the attention they need and go from there. But
other than that, I'm ready for it to be deer season again.
Me too. It's almost here, Dallas. We'll pretend we're shooting deer when we're shooting turkeys in May, and we'll see. I'm gonna try to take Billy with me this year. I might not even take a firearm or anything. Just go out with him because he's been talking about. We talk about hunting all the time with him, and he's like, "I'm bigger. I can go hunting now."
If you're gonna do that for turkey season, you should take them out in April. They're more callable at that time, anyways. If you wanted to just go
scouting.
Just go out and set him up in a blind and just try to call in some turkeys.
Yeah.
I bet he'd lose his mind if you call in a gobbler in April.
Yeah.
It's wide open so you can see, there's no
Right.
leaves on the trees, and that's actually when they're breeding and when they're more susceptible to calling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, last April I had so much fun watching those birds, trying to figure them out.
Yeah.
Morning and night over there. Of course, we didn't do us any good, but I'm going to try putting the ground blind again back in that same spot. I thought that was a pretty good spot there on the short bouts, for trying to get, at least being able to have a spot to start the day to see where the birds go when they come down, if they roost in there again.
That's where I want to put up a elevated hunting blind.
That'd be a sweet spot.
Just more towards the west a little bit more, where the corner there.
Mhm.
That's where I want to buy maybe one of those Amish blinds and put it up there.
Yeah.
Because that's where all our food is going to be. So.
Yeah, I think that'd be sweet.
It'd be nice access with either west or south wind. You could come in, have really good access there, and should be a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to do that. Probably next summer. That should be our
Right.
investment next summer is a elevated blind. This summer's the corn planter, and next year do that.
Yeah, we went planter, then maybe blind, and then back to the planter. So, like I say, I think we're all excited about having that planter. So,
Have you talked with Brian about? Last week we were talking about he wanted to get an idea where to start planting trees.
Yeah, we
have
talked.
you talked about it?
Yeah.
So
In fact,
I'm sure he probably wants to get going on that if he hasn't already.
Yeah, he's probably about ready now that the weather's getting nice.
Yeah.
I also did. I put in a small tree order from Erie County as well. 30 spruce and 10 chestnut.
Okay.
Not a big order, but I want to get some more wind breaks up along the west side of the property there, where everything's just so wide open now. I want to get some more spruce over there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then chestnut we've been talking about for a few years. That's nothing that's around here, so it'd be nice to get maybe a few of those going along
So
with
we
all
can
the oaks.
roast them over an open fire. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm missing chestnuts in my life because I just don't have any to roast.
Have you done that before?
No, I haven't, but I've always wanted to. It's a very romantic idea. I could use some romance.
I saw almost a city get burned down in Korea by guys roasting chestnuts over a fire next to a giant pile of pallet wood.
You were in Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there for work a long time ago, like 15 years ago or more. And
wow, I didn't know that you traveled over there.
Yeah, the plant, we were putting all our equipment into this brand new plant, and all the pallet wood that they shipped everything over in, they had it in this like 30-foot high pile out in the yard. And these guys from the plant were out there on a Sunday afternoon roasting chestnuts over a fire, and the wind picked up and started this huge freaking pile of wood on fire. And you fight your own fires in South Korea.
Is this right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have one truck in the whole town, and one guy gets out of it with no equipment, no mask, no PPE at all, and starts throwing water at it. But all the plants, the hotels, everything, they all have water hoses that in the hotel had a rope that you could use to
hang yourself before
fire escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit of culture shock.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, I guess I knew you had gone overseas a few times, but you were installing equipment. Yeah, you're quiet, Dallas. You're one of those guys. You make me uncomfortable because God only knows where those skills came from with the rifle in your hand. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. I always like people that travel around the world, and for work, and then they never tell you what they do. It's like, what are you doing? But there's a reason why I don't need to know. I'm on a need to know basis.
Yep. I became an assassin on my own accord.
Yeah, not on the company dime. So, you see this? Did you get this in the mail?
No.
It's I forget exactly what. It's from PA. Is it because? Oh, it's because I think it's because I participated in the doe permit program down there, which I didn't fill a doe tag, but they're looking to. I think I'd have to read through this, but I think they're looking for people that are participating in programs that they have to help with their. I think it's elk. They're trying to keep track of where the elk are and what people are seeing and stuff. So it's definitely cool. I'm hoping someday to draw that tag down there. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
The other one I'm hoping to someday draw is Maine moose. I gotta that draw. I think it's not that expensive. It's maybe $15 a year. I think it is to put in for a point.
Yeah.
It's a lottery, and so I gotta keep doing that. I think I've done that for 3 years now. So I think that's due in May. Iowa's due in May.
Oh, I gotta do that one.
Yeah. So I've got 1 year in on that. And update for everybody, I'm not going out west this year. I said that on the podcast a few weeks ago. I was all excited. And then I'm not excited anymore. I'm not going.
So is anybody going?
As far as I know, they're still going. Brian and Danny, or Brian's not going?
Brian is. Bob's not.
Bob's not. But I believe Tard, Brian, and AJ are going.
Okay.
But it's not in the cards. I'd be just pushing things. It ain't worth it. And we've got that extra week of deer season here now, so I'm kind of really excited about that. And
I'm crazy excited about that extra week at the end there with the muzzleloader. I mean,
we're just going to be out wandering the woods on these big side hills in the snow is what we're going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I would like to do that for 3/4 of the day, and then spend the last 2 days sitting over, or 2 hours sitting over a food plot.
Yeah.
Because it's both my best kind of hunting.
Mhm.
Late season, either organized hunts or food plot hunts, and just can't beat it for me.
No.
That's where I want to be.
So where I was going with that is I'm not going out west, but I'm still flirting the idea of maybe trying to go to Iowa, or at least put in for the lottery for the Iowa muzzleloader tag in first week of January. But I would really need to cut back on my time in the woods here in October and November, because I know we're going to PA in December, and I know I'm going to want to hunt late season here a lot. I'm going to want to put some good time in. So I don't know. I'm have a couple months yet to decide my approach there, but
So we found a little bonus in Pennsylvania this year in that if you go the first week and you don't fill a tag, you can put together a 1-day trip on the final day of the season on Saturday.
Mhm.
So that was something I just came up with after we got back.
it's like,
I'm like,
why can't we go back?
I just thought about it. I'm like, we're 2.5 hours away. Why can't I just go back there on Saturday?
Yeah. And I definitely would like to take more advantage of, as the time permits, to go down there and, whether it be with the bow, even for a day, a day or two, if you got a peak rut day, if I fill my bow tag here and I can get down there first week in November or something during the week, take a day off of work and run down there. But it's all just fairy tales and pipe dreams. I mean, I'm locked in and focused on here, and
I did it a few times, but you need more than a day or two to make it worth going down there to bow hunt, in my mind. I mean, unless you got it, because we can't scout enough ahead of time.
you can get lucky. You can be in the right
sure.
spot. We know where the deer
Yeah.
historically hang in that, but yeah, I found a spot I've been working a spot, and I'll show you where it is on the map, and I don't want to talk too much about it on here, but I can't stop thinking about it. It's a piece of public that's, I think it's a little overlooked, and I walked there 2 afternoons this week on my way home from work, and I'm like, this sign is ridiculous. And there's some good sign, and the deer are just extremely heavily hanging there, and I'm excited about it. It's one of those spots where you could just it's not very big, so you couldn't really hunt it that much, but it's one of those spots where it's like, if you've got 2 hours in a morning that you can go hunt, you could run over there and maybe put yourself in a pretty dynamite situation. So I'll show you where it is, because I think you'll find it interesting where it is. But there's some of those. I got to get back there, and there's got to be sheds in there. I just cannot imagine. It's a south-facing slope, and it's just, I mean, the acorns in there, and the deer trails, and the deer shit, and there has got to be horn in there. But it's this big, like, all these little micro features and bowls and everything, and there's too much that I couldn't cover it in 30 minutes, but I got down in there and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is crazy. So yeah, I'll show you.
It's always good to find more spots.
Yeah. I mean, that doe I shot, with my muzzleloader this year, I knew I had like 2 hours. That's it. And it was going to take me at least 45 minutes to an hour to get in there. And then I was going to get to this spot, and if there was deer there, I was going to kill one. If there wasn't, I wasn't. And like, it's really fun to have some of those little honey holes that you can just
go check
just in there, pow, put them in your backpack, and I'm home by dinner time. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, you got to be prepared to do that, though. But fortunately, you are.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you, Dallas. I think we should wrap her up. We're almost at 2 hours somehow. So thanks for your time. It's nice catching up with you.
Yeah.
In our busy
Always.
lives, and keep feeding them.
Feed them.